On this episode, we're talking about P Diddy, from rituals to sacrifice, trafficking, and just all the other absolute nonsense that's going on. You've got Kanye West a couple years ago saying that Diddy's a fad, Diddy's a fad, Diddy's a fad. He talks about what's called the game, or at least suggest that there's a larger conspiracy, that there's these network of people that are effectively paying people to squid game in real life. People were asking sexual favors in advance for career advancement. Sometimes he wasn't sure if it was like real or fake.
You're gonna do whatever it could possibly take to get to where you need to be by any means necessary. Well, shit gets weird.
To get to where you need to be. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whether you're tuning in across the nation or around the world. My name is Shane Squark, here, as always, with the Mr. Phillips, my esteemed co-host.
Yo.
We are your conspiracy realist here for another episode of Cocktails and Conspiracies. I hope by now you've already clicked that like and subscribe, the follow on Spotify, Instagram, and X to make sure you stay tuned with us. I'm a little nasally today. Got a little bit of allergy kick going on here, Mr. Phillips. But fortunately,
got a little boo-boo in the schnoz.
I've got the
medicine.
medicine.
Schnoz boo-boo. Oh, it cures all things. It's lunch.
To deal with our conspiracies here.
I went with the whiskey tonight, baby. It's almost starting to get a little chilly out. We got spooky season. That's when I turn to my whiskey.
Yep. That's when he's turning it on, folks. He's finally drinking a real drink. He's
on.
done with the nonsense. Tonight, we are completely shooting off the cuff. The off-the-cuff episodes for us seem to be kind of our forte, only because we tend to vent a little bit more.
That's kind of what this was intended to be initially.
Right.
I never thought anybody was going to want to talk to us.
Yeah, it's nice to have.
I still don't know
why.
why.
I don't know either. Our guests seem to take the work off our shoulders a little bit, so that's cool. Because all we have to do is ask questions, and they have done all the research, and all we're doing is asking questions that we're curious about. So that's nice.
Yeah.
What I think we're pivoting to is that these off-the-cuff episodes are us just kind of venting, honestly, and
pretty much,
just spilling what's in our hearts. Tonight, I didn't kick it off with an intro because a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is a little all over the place. It's hard to really craft that intro, I think. So I wanted to kind of just jump into it. It's weird, it's nasty, it's crazy. We're talking about P Diddy. P Diddy, and on a broader sense, all the shit going on in Hollywood, from rituals to sacrifice, trafficking, and just all the other absolute nonsense that's going on. Did you expect to see it?
It's kind of one of those things that you've always heard about. Like, we've heard for years, and I don't even mean necessarily just us. You don't have to be in the conspiracy realm to even kind of hear about this stuff, but you've always heard of just, shady underground things going on in Hollywood and within the music industry, and I kind of couple both of them into the whole same kind of ball of wax. So I'm not, like, totally shocked, to say the least. You know what I mean? Like, and especially regarding the Diddy thing, like, there has been celebrities that have come out for years now that have implicated him being involved in the shit that he's now, that's finally coming out. So, but in the past, it was really more so hearsay, and now it's kind of like, oh, all right, so we're getting some glue that actually sticks here.
When the Harvey Weinstein stuff came around, it was like saying the quiet part out loud. It was not a very big surprise to a lot of people that people were asking sexual favors in advance for career advancement. And to be very honest,
gone on forever.
It's gone on forever. It's still going on right now, and it's not just happening
100%.
in Hollywood. It happens everywhere.
100%.
And let's be honest here too. I mean, there's a whole Vince McMahon saga going on. Netflix just dropped the Mr. McMahon documentary.
Did you binge it all in one sitting?
I did binge it more or less in one sitting because
Yeah, I figured.
nothing new that I didn't know about, but it does tie into what we're talking about today. Is stuff comes out about Vince McMahon that he's basically sleeping with a bunch of wrestlers, a bunch of women, and in compensation he's paying them more money or giving them gifts, and they're basically blowing him. Amongst other things. So he ends up dating this one particular woman for like 2 years. She gets like, $50,000 worth a month in crap from him, gifts and trips and all this other crap. During this time, breaks it off, and then now it's, this lawsuit about trafficking her and abuse and
Was
all
that
this
the
stuff.
one that she came out with some wild shit that he did?
He like crapped on her head. Yeah.
That's just that's absurd.
It's absolutely
That's
absurd.
so absurd.
Listen, people in power do some crazy shit.
Do you think they just have so much money and power? I didn't mean to cut you off, but do you think they have so much money and power that they're just fucking bored? They're like, what else could I do? What else could I do? I'm gonna shit on this chick's head.
Look historically to like, I don't even know how to segment it, but who are the kids that are usually overdosing on like really premium drugs? It's the rich kids. Who are the kids getting in trouble? They're stealing stuff they don't need. They're just to do it for the thrill because they get so fucking bored because they've got everything. They've never been told no. They don't have to work for anything. And all these kids get into scrums. Now imagine you exacerbate that to levels unknown, right? You're talking about, I mean, these rich kids probably deal with it because there's plenty of finance guys that you never heard of who have way more money than any celebrity that you've heard of. But like you start to elevate it because now on top of the money, you also have power when you walk into a place.
Right.
And we've seen it happen so many times with like child actors. They always say like these child actors always crash and burn. You see it with athletes who get a bulk load of money and then maybe they fizzle out for their career. They weren't as talented as they were, or they get a bad injury and then they're broke as shit. And you see it happen all the time. It's because they live so large and they live so crazy. You see athletes all the time that are getting in car wrecks. They're driving really fast and getting pulled over by the police officers and not putting their tinted black windows down. This shit happens regularly. They're getting DUIs. They're getting pulled over. Like you can pay for a fleet of Ubers to drive you around and you still decide to do all this stuff.
Right.
It's the power, right? And it's power hungry.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising to me about that.
All those guys too that have like, do you ever see the Showtime series Ray Donovan? If you haven't seen it,
I've heard of it. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Right, like he's a fixer, right? Like he makes problems go away. Like they have like real life Ray Donovans. You know what I mean? Like they don't give a shit. Like the law doesn't matter to them. There's no repercussions because they've got a fixer. They got something to make all those bad things go away. So you're absolutely right.
Well, so I referenced it and you nailed it right in the head. Of course, Tyreek Hill just gets pulled over by the police a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's going fast. You can argue about how fast he was going, whatever. Like, there's a whole big dispute about it. But he gets off scot-clean, and now this cop's probably going to lose his job about it.
Yep.
But he gets off because, and he asks in the media, he's like, what happens if my name wasn't Tyreek Hill? Well, then you'd be in jail. That's what happens.
Exactly. Then you'd be in prison. Yes.
He calls his security guard, who's like the former like chief or captain of police over in Miami Police Department. Like that's the guy that gets him out of all this stuff. So it's like you see these people in power and they've got these connections. They're held in high esteem and they always skate the law. People get in power. People, celebrities, they get in trouble for something and they're let off and they're made an example and they become a champion. And Michael Vick was sicking dogs on each other to kill them. And he's out walking around scot-free. I mean, this happens all the time.
He did go to prison for a little while, but it was a reduced sentence.
He did go to prison, yeah, in fairness to him, but it was a very, very light sentence. But nevertheless, circling back to the point on I was going to say Epstein, on Weinstein, all these Steins. So it wasn't surprising to me that it happened. What was more surprising is that it all came out and then it became a thing. Right. Then we kind of transition into the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. And we take us out to this magical, mystical island, this Epstein Island. And we find out that he's trafficking children. He's trafficking young underage girls. And they're having these like crazy sex parties, which are littered with blackmail and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Of course, Epstein didn't kill himself. Everyone's familiar with that. The meme happens. And what comes of that, Tim? Epstein died how many years ago?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I feel like it's got to be at least 3-4 years at this point. I could be way off, but it's been some time now, and nothing has come of it.
August 10th, my birthday, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein kicked the
Holy
bucket.
shit, dude, that's way longer than I thought it was.
Is it? No, right before COVID hit.
What's 5
Epstein
years?
didn't kill himself.
Yeah, that's
with
5
COVID.
years.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem
You're
that
right.
long ago. So
I would have
for
said like
5
I think I said 2 or
years.
3. Yeah,
Yeah, well, those COVID years kind of blend together
close
a little bit
enough.
because it was
They
chaos.
do.
5 years, right? And in 5 years, Epstein was apparently he died. He either killed himself, quote unquote, the official narrative, or he was
Yeah.
killed in his jail cell by hanging, which was unusual given the circumstances around it. We're not here to talk about Epstein. We're here to talk about the people that were on that list and what happened to
Right.
them. We don't know because nothing ever happened. No names
Yep.
were ever released. No flight logs were formally released. His mistress was then taken into custody, and she's now sitting in jail, and she's not saying anything. But why else would he have been arrested if something wasn't going on there? And if you look at all the connections he's had, that brings us to really the crutch of tonight's episode. And we're talking about Hollywood rituals. And I've become obsessed with this topic for a couple years now. A few years ago, and I don't know if I have the exact date on that. I'm looking right now, 2022. So yeah, 2 years ago, I was listening to Talk is Jericho, Chris Jericho's podcast. We've probably mentioned him before. Pro wrestler, does a largely pro wrestling podcast, but he also had done an episode, or he sprinkles in episodes that are like occult, conspiracy, horror, rock and roll, because he has a rock band, like things that he's interested in. So those always attracted me too. I love the wrestling stuff. That's why I listen to Chris Jericho, but those attracted me too. And there's this guy named Tim Chismar that comes on the podcast. And
Good
when
name,
I first
Tim.
listened to
Good
the
name.
Tim Chismar, yeah, Mr. Chismar. When he first comes on the podcast, I don't really think much of it. I mean, the episode description was absurd, and I was like, this is going to be dumb. But usually when I listen to podcasts, I'm in the middle of doing something, so I'm listening. Even if I don't care about the episode, I'll process it if I like the hosts, which I'm sure each and every one of you listening out there do. So he talks about what's called the game. Again, kind of eye-rolling. The entire podcast is about this Hollywood game that's played where people are getting paid, especially if they're new to Hollywood, to do things, all different things. It could be something as simple as going dark on your social media. It could be something as saying that you were kidnapped or showing yourself in handcuffs and disappearing for a couple days and seeing how far you'd push it. I got a clip here that I want to bring up, and I want everyone to just listen to it for a little bit. I'm only going to play about a minute or two of it just to kind of set the stage. Obviously, it's an hour-long podcast. We're not going to go through that on there. But I want to set the stage with this because I think it's important to what we're about to talk to here. So I'm going to pull that up now. It's on YouTube here. I'll pop it to theater mode, and we're going to listen real quickly.
What was the first thing they asked you to do?
I think it was something like that. Like I saw somebody following
Okay.
me, somebody, staring at me, or, what's up with these people? How come they keep following me? Something like that. It was alluding to like some kind of ridiculous.
So let's go up the block, the chain of command here. So Tim posts this tweet, for example, somebody's following me, and then Dave or whoever, Rob's friend, gives you $300.
Yep.
Who's above Rob's friend is Dave, right?
Yes.
Who's above Dave?
Purposely, I never get to know, because if I go public, all I can say is him, and then he's willing to back up this stuff because we talked about it. It's been like 5 years since I was active in the game. But you are specifically supposed to only know the person who got you involved, so that it can be cut off.
I'm going to stop that right there. It's about that whole clip is about 7 minutes long. Y'all can check that out. Look up Talk is Jericho on YouTube. He's got the clip of that segment there too. But there's another minute that maybe is relevant, but not enough where I'll just chime in so you can listen to our beautiful voices instead of Tim and Mr. Jericho. The crutch of what I pulled from that clip, and again, there's a lot more to it than that, is you're having somebody who's a friend of a friend. So it's like me coming to you, Tim, and said, hey, listen, I'm part of this group. I'm going to give you $300. Just post on your Twitter that somebody's following me, and then don't post for a day. Don't post anything. Would you do it?
Probably.
Right?
For an easy $300, sure, why not?
$300? Are you fucking
Someone's
kidding me?
following me? Absolutely.
Why wouldn't I do
media
that?
post? I'm in.
Right. And if you think about back, I mean, we're a little older now, but I remember back in my early social media days, I would post ridiculous stuff on my accounts. Like, I remember once I planned with a girl to post up. I just posted up a picture of just a random picture I found on the internet of like an engagement ring and tagged her in the picture. And people went nuts thinking I was engaged. I never did anything with it. I never said anything about it. We never even showed the slightest inkling that we were dating. It just went from single, and I didn't even change my status. It just had a picture, and I got texts and blah 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 because people are nosy, right?
Yeah.
So what Tim is experiencing is like obviously like, all right, yeah, I don't care. It's funny because you're getting hits,
Sure.
you're getting likes, and people are showing their curiosity.
Right.
The next time it happens, they maybe up the money a little bit more, but now they want you to do a little bit more. Now they want you to do a little
you know
bit more.
what's interesting too, is that we're talking about people that are new to Hollywood. If you're new to Hollywood, you're likely waiting tables somewhere. Or you're working at Starbucks, right? So $300 to you is like, dude, like that. I'm gonna put that shit toward rent. You know what I mean? Or like, they could use that money. We're not talking about like very famous people at this point.
We're talking about literal nobody. I mean, this particular guy is a comedian that was working like, open mic nights in Hollywood, doing exactly what you said, trying to scrap together cash. And so you, like you said, $300 to just not post on my account after I said somebody's following me and just disappear for a day? Fuck yes. So the premise of that podcast, as he goes into a lot more stories, is how this escalates up. It's very similar. They drew a lot of comparisons to the 1997 film with Michael Douglas, The Game, and more recently, like a less violent version of the Squid Games, right?
Okay.
So I'm just grabbing right here.
Did you watch that? I never watched that.
The Squid Games?
Yeah, I never watched it.
Nah, it really wasn't my tastes, my forte. So
yeah, me neither.
I
get the premise. Right, exactly.
Right.
I know what it is. I just never watched it.
Well. So now think it's Squid Games without them with the ridiculous costumes, right? Like, where did that idea come from? That starts to make you think. This guy's saying like it gets progressively higher. So they start staging some disappearances, kidnapping, S&M scenes, to the point where like sometimes he wasn't sure if it was like real or fake because the scenes would start to progress. And now he particularly had dropped out, but he had encountered other people that were in it. And largely you are kept separate and you're recording this footage and you're sending it out to people. So sometimes it's like a social experiment with your own, but like when you're filming an S&M scene, you're sending it to someone. It's like, I don't know who sees that. Right. And he starts to speculate throughout this podcast, or at least suggest that there's a larger conspiracy, that there's these network of people that are effectively paying people to Squid Game in real life. And then it pushes the edge. And then it's like, go beat up a bum, go stab that guy, go kill that guy. And what does that make you think of when you talk about people killing them, recording it, and sending it off to somebody else, selling it in the black market?
Film. It's a snuff film, essentially, is exactly what it is.
And snuff films exist, right?
Right.
Like we know that they exist.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
That's not pretend.
Okay.
Yeah, that's real shit.
So what's the point of all this? This set me in motion on thinking about this because when I finished listening to it, I thought this guy was out of his mind. I thought it's plausible and it feels like a lot of like scripts for a movie. I still think to a degree maybe he was embellishing a little bit, maybe not, but it starts to add up and it starts to align because this happens in 2022, but that's after, Epstein is caught. So, all right, that's in the back of your mind right there. That's after Weinstein is kind of exposed. All right, well, now that's back in your mind after there. And then it just kind of resonates in my mind. Like, wow, would people do this ridiculous stuff for money? And of course they would, because why wouldn't they? But are people out there that are crazy enough to be paying them for it? Well, of course they are, because they're bored. I mean, again, just look at the Hollywood kids. Look at what kids are doing on YouTube right now, right? Where they're just spoofing videos of like them beating the shit out of each other, or they're going up and actually hitting people in real life. And recording it for YouTube, like knocking somebody out, and then they'll like blame it on something else.
The knockout game.
Oh no, it's just a movie. The knockout game, right? Exactly. So this is what really got me thinking about it. So that brings us to today. P Diddy gets exposed, right? And there's this whole thing about him having, was it 1,000 bottles of baby oil? Is that right? Does that sound about right?
Something like that. Yep. A shitload of baby oil.
A shitload of baby oil.
That he claimed he got from Costco.
I love that they called him out on it, by the way. That's amazing. So P. Diddy gets busted, and all this stuff starts dropping. You've got Kanye West a couple years ago saying that Diddy's a fed, Diddy's a fed, Diddy's a fed. Kanye's been out of his mind for a while, but now I question, was he?
Was he out of his mind at all? I mean, listen, he has said a lot of off-the-wall shit about a lot of people, about different groups of people. Like, he's really gone out on a lot of limbs there and really stretched it.
Yeah.
But, listen, even crazy people say some real shit every now and again.
Even crazy people, yep. The crazy's coming from somewhere. Where is that coming from? So you've got that. You've also got, oh crap, what was that guy's name? That other rapper that was going on all these talk shows, basically calling out. He called that Diddy was getting arrested, and then it happened. And
that I
his
don't
home
recall,
was
but
raided.
I know Cat Williams a while ago.
Cat Williams, that's what I'm
on
thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Cat Williams,
yes,
comedian.
yes.
Yep, he was
Comedian,
on. Whose
yes,
podcast
not
was he
rapper.
on? Was it Shannon Sharp? I think
He
it might have
was
been Shannon
definitely
Sharp's podcast.
but he was on like a
Yeah,
dozen others, and he was spewing
Yeah.
the same shit all over the place.
Yeah, the big one I think. Well, at least that I'm thinking of was the Shannon Sharp podcast. Don't know the name of it. Sorry, Shannon. Like he's gonna see this. But yeah, that like he went.
Maybe
in
when he was banging his girlfriend, I'll see it.
on Instagram Live. Yeah, he went in. Cat went in deep on Diddy on that episode.
Yeah, he did. And at the time, again, you look at this guy like, oh god, this guy's out of his mind. Like, what the hell is he actually smoking? And like 2 weeks later, Diddy's house is getting raided, and this guy fucking picks up on a flight and leaves the United States. Like, just leaves.
Yeah.
Eventually comes back, probably was threatened to kill at some point, and now is under custody. They raid his house again. They get thousands of bottles of baby oil. They get hundreds of dildos. You know, crazy shit. They're talking about these freak offs, and allegedly he's got all this blackmail of Hollywood celebrities all over the place.
Yeah.
Now things to me start getting really crazy, because now I think back to that Jericho story and it's starting to add up. Well, this guy's talking about Hollywood people up a chain of command that don't tell you who the person is underneath you, making you do all these videos. Okay, what else clicks in my mind? Do you remember the cult Nexium?
Yes. Trust me, I know about Nexium from you. You
For me,
love
I was
Nexium.
obsessed with Nexium because it happened really close to us.
Yeah.
Nexium ended up creating almost like a subdivision of their main organization called DOS, and that was the one where they had these women that were branding themselves. But it was again, the whole thing from top to bottom. Nexium itself was a pyramid scheme, and so was DOS. And what they would do is you have the girls you have the guy at the very top, Keith Raniere, right? Mm-hmm. And then you'd have his like elite group of girls. Those girls would recruit girls underneath them and make those girls basically take sex videos of themselves, masturbation, having sex with other people, just all sorts of pornographic videos, and they'd send it to the girls above them, who would feed it back to Keith. But then that second layer of girls would be required to go recruit their own set of girls that would do the same thing, and then their own set of girls. So it became this pyramid of just girls and girls and girls, and like they only think that they're providing this blackmail to create trust with the girl that's above them. They're like mother, whatever they call the level above,
whatever they call
mother, mother, wife, or whatever. But realistically, it's going to somebody at the top, presumably Keith, because he's the only man that's part of this group, presumably.
Right.
And that's what it started to make me think about as I thought.
Was it really all women other than him?
Well, no, Nexium itself was men and women.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the DOS, that other sector.
The DOS part was the women got together to create this women empowerment group within it, but he was actually at the head of it. And the women that created it were actually like his immediate like 3 trustees or 4 trustees that were coaching these other women to do it. The other thing that I started to relate to is Nexium was made up of a lot of failed or struggling actors, actresses, heiresses, like the Bronson sisters, who own the Seagram 7. Like, they're billionaires. They funded it. But they're rich women, like young girls at the time, that have nothing to do with their money, and they wanted to feel empowered. It's musicians, it's directors. So there's another tie, and they were smart. Keith Raniere was smart in that, because if you can get into their heads, because a lot of these people are facing rejection constantly. And so he's getting in their head and he's manipulating them and brainwashing to believe it's on them. And that if they submit out to him, then, you know, they're going to fix their problems. And I will give him credit, because a lot of the things that I saw him doing are probably good techniques to sort of get over a lot of fears. Now, there's a lot of abuse that's going on behind the scenes too. With all the good comes power trip, right? But there's the Hollywood tie again. And it starts to show you, and my deep dive into all cults shows you that actors, specifically Hollywood aspiring people that want to be famous, are very malleable, because their esteem is crushed, because they're constantly facing rejection, and they're grasping at straws for anything. We go back to that $300. $300, just post something on my social media. What's the harm? The next time it's 500. The next time it's 1,000. The next time it's 2,000. When you don't have a gig and you're living in Hollywood and you think you're going to land your gig and you're meeting all these people and shit, and they're just telling you, you know, just do this, just do that. all of a sudden, things start to feel a little weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get roped in. You're literally living paycheck to paycheck. You're scrimping, you're scribing, you're trying to claw your way to be even the slightest bit recognizable, and you're gonna do whatever it could possibly take to get to where you need to be by any means necessary. So shit gets weird.
To get to where you need to be. And for the longest time in Hollywood music, who was the channel you had to go to be somebody? It's Puff Daddy.
In Hollywood music, was it Puff?
In
I don't
music. It's Puff.
in music, gotcha.
Justin Bieber. Right. Justin Bieber becomes this overnight sensation effectively from Canada, right? Who's the first person at the 15 years old, who's the first person to come knocking? Is Puffy, right? And there's videos that go on online that I don't have that video. See, these videos get taken down so fast when I bookmark them. Sometimes I can't pull them up quick enough. Yeah, I don't know if these people are intentionally doing it. They don't want to scratch their stuff, but effectively, Justin Bieber comes to the United States. They're signing a contract together, and Puff Daddy's like, we're going to spend the next 48 hours together, and you guys can't know anything that's going on, right? And you just don't hear anything. You go through and you watch the progressions of what happens to Bieber from that, and he becomes sexualized by a lot of like older women, like Katy Perry's grabbing his ass. He's on talk shows, people are grabbing him.
Yeah, there's the whole like Pink is like trying to like kiss him at an award show, and just
damn,
women that are
you just
much
nailed
older
that
than
one.
him, much older than him.
So that's perfect. That's a great segue because we're going to watch that right now. I'm going to zoom in on here a little bit so we don't have to look at it small. But I want to just play this clip again too because this one's going to be important to this next feed. This is Dom Lucre, who's posting all over X. My man posts crap all the time. So, all right. So here's that clip. You can find this pretty much all over Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're looking at right now. I'm gonna mute that, but just look at his face there.
Right now. Dude, he looks so fucking uncomfortable.
What a Bieber.
And you could hear what he said. He's like, I feel very violated right now. You heard that?
Yes. Yep.
Right. And then here's Katy Perry grabbing his ass. I want to know what a Bieber butt looked like or felt like.
Dude, when I was 18, if Katy Perry wanted to grab my ass, I'd be all in. But that's besides the point.
Well, right. I mean, as a young kid, you're like, all right, well, this is a hot chick. Like, all right, I'm into it. But the guy's like 16 years old. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's a little weird that you're obsessing over how hot this kid is.
100%.
When
it's
you're
certainly
that age,
not
right?
normal.
Here you go again. What do you smell like? And he keeps telling him how he smells. Is that James Corden? Is that what that guy's name is?
I think that's what his name is. Yeah, he's got some show on like,
yeah,
I don't even know what network. Some goofy ass show.
It's weird.
I feel uncomfortable right now. Aww. Why do you want to know the sex talk from a 15-year-old boy? That's pretty weird.
Things on blast.
You want to say it again? You have beautiful lips.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, bro.
You have great lips.
Like, what weird freaking shit to be doing to a kid, right?
So fucking bizarre. It's so fucking bizarre.
Dude, right? Like, how uncomfortable. And like, in retrospect, at the time, you don't think about it. Because everyone's sitting there watching this kid. Always living his dream.
Right.
Like you just said. If I'm that young, you get some hot older chick grabbing your ass. You don't think much of it. You're a 16-year-old boy. You don't think much of it. But when you start to add all those things together, it starts to feel a little awkward, right?
Look, he was definitely uncomfortable. I mean, and I know I made the joke about, listen, I'd love Katy Perry to do whatever she wanted to do to me when I was 18 years old, right? But, that's me. I'm not Justin Bieber. And the kid clearly felt uncomfortable.
Yep. There's another video, which, I mean, I literally just bookmarked it and I can't find it here. But I'm going to pull up the lyrics. It's a song here by Bieber. And the song's called Lonely, Justin Bieber. And I'm going to read the lyrics out. Okay? What if you had it all, but nobody to call? Maybe then you'd know me, because I've had everything, but no one's listening, and that's just lonely. Everybody knows my past now. Like, my house was always made of glass, and maybe that's the price you pay for the money and fame at an early age. And everybody saw me sick, and it felt like no one gave. They criticized the thing I did as an idiot kid. And then it goes into the chorus again. What if you had it all but nobody to call? Maybe then you'd know me because I've had everything, but no one's listening. That's just lonely. Then the Nickelodeon documentary drops, Tim. You saw that one, right?
Yes, sir.
Give us some context on that.
So essentially, think back to the early to mid 2000s and think of any Nickelodeon show. And it wasn't just Nickelodeon, it was also Disney Channel, but this specific documentary speaks to Nickelodeon. And think about any attractive young female that might have been on those shows at that point in time. They were all incredibly sexually harassed by 40-plus-year-old perverted men. And it was just fucking disgusting.
We come to find out that documentary was called Quiet on Set, I believe.
Quiet on Set. Yep, that was it.
Although it's never specifically addressed, they also touch a lot on Amanda Bynes, who is more of like a late 90s star, pretty much our era there. And how Amanda Bynes went from this like superstar, the next major Hollywood actress, to just, I mean, a creature on earth. Like, she looks...
She's unrecognizable.
Revolting. Yes.
She is unrecognizable. And I feel a little bad saying that because if...
I do too.
What we're about to talk about, she went through a lot of stuff apparently. And if that is true, I mean, my God, man, the PTSD that somebody like that is suffering, I could see where you just melt. Your mind just melts and you go off the rails. Having said that, dude, when I was a kid, I had such a crush on Amanda Bynes. Such a crush on Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, could have been a kid in the 90s and not.
Right?
You know?
And she looks like a dude.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, worse. Yeah. So they allude to it a lot in the documentary, how Dan Schneider, he became obsessed with her. And he was
a producer, right?
He was
a producer?
Yeah, he basically starts out as a writer, and then he's a director, then he's the producer, then he's the head of Nickelodeon. Yeah, he climbs up the ranks. And he had a great way about him. He was good with the kids, obviously. But then obviously created his favorites. Well, then that starts to make you wonder, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of other casts in there that are suggesting that there was probably something going on, because Schneider was always very touchy-feely with her, always very on top of her. And then all of a sudden it got very cold, and then Amanda was like out. There was, and I don't have the Twitter feed to pull it up right here.
Yeah.
But at one point, there's an anonymous Twitter that starts posting a lot about Amanda Bynes. And it's suggesting that her father rapes her, that her people around her are raping her, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on for quite some time until finally it posts a picture of the person's license. It's Amanda Bynes. It's Amanda Bynes' license. Could have been all made up. How do you get a copy of Amanda Bynes' license, right? And it starts to claim that it is Amanda, and she's been talking on this burner account. It's the only way she can get her feelings out there. It later comes out to be said that Amanda has intentionally butchered her look so that a man will never look at her sexually again, because she was abused so much by all of the men in her life, every single one of them.
Yep.
These are children, right? These are children that are being protected at a children's network. The end of that documentary talks to Drake Bell, who is a guy. And he shares his story because there was a major lawsuit back in the 2000s at some point that was putting under one of the most prominent voice acting coaches, who happened to be a gay man, on trial for child molestation. And Drake was anonymous at this point to anybody that was outside the court case. It eventually becomes speculated and leaked that it's probably him, but he's never come out publicly and admitted it until this documentary. Long story short, this coach is like bringing in Drake at a very young age and basically starts like raping this kid, and he doesn't know what to say. He tries to like tell people, nobody's really hearing him. He's very uncomfortable. He's worried about his job. His father has a big issue with it, but his mother's kind of fighting the father off because like they're divorced and he wants to protect the career, and Drake just doesn't understand. Like, and he's scarred from this. He ends up getting in a huge fight with the kid Josh that was of Drake and Josh, because Josh doesn't believe him. And like calls him out, trying to sabotage their careers because Drake was starting to take off, and Josh lost all his weight. Now he wants to be his turn, and so there's precedence now that it's not just happening to the young girls, but it's also happening to the young guys.
Yes.
Again, we're back in Hollywood, and we're setting the stage across the board here. It's happening on all different angles. It's not just happening with the Harvey Weinsteins sitting on, like, the casting couch. It's happening in Nickelodeon studios with all these young kids coming up. And then you're watching when these child actors are freaking out and they're crashing and burning. Corey Feldman, who's calling out Hollywood as pedophiles and
For years, dude.
sycophants for years.
He has
for
been
decades.
calling out. He's been exactly for decades. And
Yep.
case in point, Corey Feldman. Have you seen his whole like music career now? Have you ever seen the videos of that?
No.
Dude, he is batshit crazy. He has
I imagine.
gone completely off the rails. And I hate to make a joke at his expense, right? Again,
Yep.
he clearly went through some really fucked up shit. But he's been calling this out for decades.
On every talk show he's been laughed off, he's been chased off, he's been called crazy. He attests that one of his best friends, Corey Haim, is dead now because he just couldn't, because he was trying to come out about all the same stuff. That again, he was getting sexually abused, he was getting abused in Hollywood growing up, and that's what ultimately leads to his death. I think it's an addiction, and he died from his official cause of death is pneumonia. He struggled with substance abuse, was well documented. What happened there, that's probably a podcast for another day. So
pneumonia. Does he have any relation to Diddy?
What?
Any Diddy connects there?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I bring that up because I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the whole, like, I'm sure you know the whole, like, Kim Porter, Diddy's old, or I'm sorry, I should say his ex-wife, died at, like, 30-some-odd years old of fucking pneumonia.
So that's a great segue, Tim, because we're bringing
Look
it
at
back.
that. I'm just filling in the segues, baby.
You're reading my mind tonight. I like it. It's good chemistry.
Which is good because before, when you and I said that, hey, we're going to do a podcast on this, I really haven't followed the whole Diddy thing that much. And we were kind of talking about it once, like our circle, and I was like, I don't know, maybe because it's Hollywood, I don't give a shit about these people, but the whole kid thing does really bother me. I think I've been a little bit more geared into like politics lately, but let's go, baby. Read your mind. Now that I fucked that segue up, finish it.
All right, so no, the segue is good. So Kim, was her last name Porter? I don't have. Yeah, Kim Porter. Back in 2018, she wrote a 60-page book called Kim's Lost Words, and it claims to be a collection. Oh, she didn't write. Sorry, this comes out. There's a 60-page book called Kim's Lost Words, claims to be a collection of the diaries of Kim Porter, a mother of 3 children, of Puff Daddy's 3 children, who died of pneumonia in 2018. She recounts discovering and making copies of tapes that Diddy made of himself having sex with young boys as he was managing. Young boys he was managing, including the alleged tape involving an 18-year-old pop star who went on to be a household name. Many speculate that to be Justin Bieber. It's not said, but it's speculated to be Justin Bieber. The final entry of the memoir, again, these are her text messages, has her falling ill and dramatically texting her friends, "He got me," before she calls 911. This is from 2018. All of this began circulating, and it's been out there. It is not the only instance of that, but this is a very young, healthy, by all accounts, beautiful young woman who is now dead after she's texting all of her friends that these tapes are leaking out there.
Yep.
Coincidence?
And she dies of pneumonia. I want to point
Which
that
is
out.
plausible. It is plausible to have serious pneumonia.
People die of pneumonia for sure. Generally speaking, I don't know if she was in her 30s or her 40s, but she was a young person who was healthy, and she died of pneumonia. That raises a red flag.
Yep. You've had a lot of other people come out along the way. You've had bodyguards. You've had people that claim to be at the parties. I think it's hard to pinpoint if those are accurate. But what was intriguing is there's a woman by the name of Ali, and I'm not going to play her video, her testimony, because that is really, really, really long. But I'm pulling it up right now. I had her last name, and I actually reached out to her before this episode because I was going to see if we could maybe get her on at some point. Back a couple years ago, I want to say around the COVID era, she gets on like an Instagram live, and she starts talking about how she's like a call girl for these Diddy parties. and how she would go to these parties and she would basically be like a decoration. They'd lay her on a table and they'd like put food around her and like she's like there dressed up like,
I've seen
like
those
a
pictures.
sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is a woman years before these pictures are surfacing that is claiming this on an Instagram live. And she goes on to talk about, again, being raped, going to these parties, getting drugged, being part of... She's considered what's called a favor at these parties. They come in, they do their thing. She claims that this starts happening when she's a very young girl, and it goes on for a while, and she's now escaped out of there. You mentioned pictures. So, because we love to do our screen sharing here, I'm going to see if I can get this one on a full screen here. There are pictures that then circulate, which has now subsequently made her entire story go a whole lot more viral because, well, now we're recalling back to something that she was warning us about several years ago. So I'm going to pull these up again. Apologize to people that are listening into this. You're probably not missing much. It's a little creepy, but we'll describe what's going on here in just a second here. All right, so here's some of the pictures. I think I got the right one up here? Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That's the one I was thinking of.
So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see some of these pictures. There's no guarantee this is her laying on the table, but some people have actually speculated that this is her. It's taken in 2004 at a Miami bash. I mean, you can, if you look through the pictures, you can see Will Smith is obviously very much right here. You can see that, but you can pinpoint out Diana Ross, Owen Wilson. There's a catalog of these photos. This just happens to be a screen cap of a couple of them. I saw Owen Wilson in the photos. I saw Bruce Willis in the photos personally. But this is what's happening. This isn't the only table, but this is, she lays there on the table with food around her, dressed as a child's, a human sacrifice.
And whether that's actually her or not, that point is kind of irrelevant, right? Like she at least had insider knowledge to say these things are occurring, and now you have photo proof of it. So
exactly. It's completely different. It's, to me, it's very strange. It's very weird. Very. Oh, had to sneeze there. Very unique. Oh gosh, that's not getting cut out either.
Don't worry, we didn't even hear it. You just disappeared for a second.
I know. I just muted it so I didn't sneeze right in the thing. There's some community notes just saying it's from a party in 2004 where you ate on top of the model. That's fine. It's just and I get that you have theme parties, but allegedly this happened regularly. It's just odd, and it we'll lean into the human sacrifice thing here in a bit. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like that. So that photo, for anybody that wasn't that's not watching, right? So it was a 99% naked woman laying on a table with food around her. To the best of my knowledge, unless there's some weird blue laws in your state, that's not illegal. It's just fucking weird, right?
It's weird. There's food surrounding her too, like
there's
grapes
food surrounding her
and fruit and chocolate-covered strawberries. She's got a leaf covering her crotch, but she's butt-ass naked, laying on a table with food all over the place. And you just lay there. And not only lay there.
Not only is it just weird, but there's more to her story, and that evidence that we just saw corroborates her story more. And I think that's the significance of those photos coming out.
Yep, very big significance. So, where this expands is, and again, I can't find some of these other photos, so I guess call it ill-prepared, but there are other photos of, like, I don't know if it's the same party or if it's other parties. It's the internet, so you never really know, of people where they're just like their head's just sticking out of the table. That's it. Their whole body's under the table and their head's just out. And they're alive, and it's at like a dinner table, and there's people sitting all around it, and their heads are out. And again, it looks very sacrificial. There's other ones when they're sitting around a dinner table, and there's bodies just like they're laying on the table, similar to the picture we just saw, and people are sitting around having to, and you can noticeably see celebrities. I realize AI is prominent out there, and a lot of things to be mocked. As a technology person, I'm very keen to that. At least I like to believe I am. I didn't find a lot of evidence that these photos were faked. They weren't the greatest photos in the world, admittedly, but they also didn't look like they had a lot of inconsistencies to it. There was a lot of angles. There was a lot of photos. It wasn't one. It was a collection of. Where they came from, I can't tell you. So,
well, you know what, too, though? If these photos were taken, because, I mean, supposedly these parties and all this shit has been going on for a long time. So if some of these photos were taken in 2013, let's just say, it's not going to have the same, quality photo as your, brand new iPhone 16 or, the newest Galaxy that's out today.
And that to me is the most important aspect. Like these photos we saw in the Miami Bash are from 2004, probably from a professional photographer, which is I'm sure most of them. But like the pixelation in it is exactly what you want to look for, because if you're mocking these photos up, you'll see more inconsistency. When that photo is pixelated, it's a lot harder to blend the pixelation. You can see a line of divide if you know what you're looking for. When you're cutting things in it, you'll see like more pixelation pop up around the edges. The newer photos are probably going to be smoother. And most photo tools, or especially people know what they're doing, when you're editing a photo, you're trying to upscale them, right? You're trying to make them look better. You're not necessarily trying to make them look worse without making them look wholly grainy. But again, even you're photoshopping it, you can sort of see some, for lack of a better word, residue that kind of floats around the photo. All right. So I mentioned human sacrifice.
Yep.
That's where I wanted to parlay this into Hollywood rituals. There's long prevailing theories that the Hollywood elite are behind a lot of things, whether it's trafficking of young children, or whether it's now eating people. And we've seen a lot of symbolism of that, and a lot of symbolism of different deities, particularly satanic deities, in movies, in the way Hollywood actors and actresses are posing for photos. Like you've always got the covered eye thing, which I forgot what that is off the top of my head. You know what that is?
Fuck. I wish I knew exactly what it was, but I know what you're talking about, and it's weird as shit. And you look at all of these, I feel like it's more so actresses than actors, right? More females with the whole covered eye thing. Yeah. Fuck.
There's a whole... Dude, there's like one meme out there that's just like a collage of like 100 actors and actresses all doing that and like doing different things. There's a bunch of other photos with like the black eye, when you see all these actors and actresses all have a black eye, and there is rituals that are associated with this where you have to go out and look like publicly humiliated. There's humiliation rituals, which is like generally men, big bulky men, will be dressed up in like skirts and paraded out there. And so when you see
when LeBron
this,
was dressed like a French maid.
When LeBron was dressed up like a French maid, and they actually tried to pull the same thing on like John Cena, but Cena was doing that in a movie. Like it was out of context when they pulled it.
That's
maybe
different.
Right. But all the black eye things that just come out of nowhere, but it's always the same eye for all these actors and actresses, again, starts to feel a little bit weird. Now, you merge all of that stuff in, and it's crazy to think about, right? Like, I mean, do you honestly want to tell me that people are sitting there eating humans? Like, would you believe something like that?
It's a wild
tale. I'm telling you this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I'm telling you, people are eating human beings. Are you believing that?
I don't know, man. I've always had a speculative mind. I don't know if I'd say I'd believe it, but I'd say it's certainly possible.
You think Hollywood people, like elites, are eating human beings?
Dude, it's possible, man. These people have more money than you could ever fucking imagine. More money. They're so fucking bored. And look, some people are just shitty people, man. There are bad apples in the world. I like to think that, the world is generally a good place. There are some people that just fucking suck. And when those people get in power and they're bored and they're power hungry, they're going to do some wacky shit.
Let's ask Chrissy Teigen. World famous Chrissy Teigen. Let's ask her.
Netflix show. Yeah. You talked about the weirdest thing you would eat. Before you say that, we've got a little clip here. Uh-oh.
If the person okayed it, I would eat a human.
If you were at a very fancy restaurant and they were like a tiny piece of human meat.
No. I think the only way
you wouldn't try a tiny bite?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not.
When you...
Can't hear you again.
If you were in I know I click the mute button a lot, so that way you don't hear me sniffling and sneezing in the background.
All good.
If you were in a really fancy restaurant, would you eat a human? And she's arguing with this guy about eating a human.
Right.
That's not something you just say, especially as a celebrity on a talk show. You're going to talk about eating humans.
I mean, what's her reaction to that? Like, can we? I don't know. Are we allowed to play that without getting in trouble?
We can keep watching it. Sure.
I'm curious.
David Chang to be speechless.
Look at them.
You can make it. speechless. No, it's like as soon as I said that to you, I was like, this isn't gonna go over well. Would you really eat humans? I mean, what body part would you eat? Haven't you been to that bodies exhibit down on right? Have you been there?
I've been there.
I feel like we've eaten everything. Like everything has been eaten in fine dining. What's the one thing that hasn't been served? But what body part would you eat? Like, I feel like I'd eat some like I would give you probably if the I belly. Were to pass away naturally.
All right, that's
Oh, here you go.
I would give you a piece of my arm. It doesn't look meaty enough. Yeah, no. Chicken thighs?
I don't know, man. The way you're defending that, and the way you're
well,
championing
that's what I
that,
wanted. That's what I wanted to hear. Like, I wanted to see if it was taken out of context, which it's. I mean, it sounds like that would be really hard to do.
It's not.
So I wanted to hear the question and her answer, and that's just bizarre.
And it's not the first time she's been nailed with saying stuff like that. She's talked about drinking blood before. She's talked about that. She's joked. She was tied into the whole Pizzagate thing. And Pizzagate, for those that don't know,
I remember
was about the Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant that was allegedly a front for child trafficking. And you'd see people like Chrissy Teigen posting pizza and like always talking about, oh my God, I love pizza with blah, blah, blah. And these were apparently code words. It's largely been debunked, but has it? We don't know. This is another one that started to creep me the fuck out, and I copied and pasted the wrong one. I guess it doesn't matter what screen I even look at it on, but
dude,
Chrissy Teigen's not the only one.
While you're pulling that up, whatever happened? You remember the Wayfair thing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Whatever happened to the Wayfair thing?
So
nothing ever came of that, huh? Was it debunked?
For those unsure what that is, you can go on Wayfair and you can look up and purchase like pictures of like dolls or dolls themselves of children for like $100,000, $50,000, like exorbitant amounts of money.
Or sometimes it wouldn't even be a doll; it would be like just like an armchair, and it would be ludicrously expensive.
Like
and it always had like a female
doll
name,
clothing or something. Yes,
right? And it always had a female name. Yeah.
Yes. It was really weird name shit that you can get on Wayfair.
Like the Ashley chair or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, it would have some like weird description that was kind of cryptic. Allegedly, people were looking at that as child trafficking opportunities where they're buying kids online. So I have a friend that works at Wayfair, and he works in logistics. And so I asked him, how does something like this happen? He's like, it could absolutely happen because Wayfair does not populate their whole website by themselves. Very similar to Amazon, Wayfair is open to third-party vendors who can add things on there. Said most of the time, what you'll see is that there's just a mistake, and people will post something up there, or they'll try to like flex the price out and try to make it more appealing, and Wayfair will kind of knock it down. I explained to him what this conspiracy theory was. It was the first time he's heard of it. He said that does seem unusual, and he's like, if it's an item that's not typically on Wayfair, he's like, that does seem unusual. He's like, he wouldn't know. But he's like, it's not out of the realm of possibility to say that some third party is selling something on there. And what that is, Wayfair's not necessarily going to regulate it unless they have something else on there. Right. So, to the Wayfair thing, is if you had some weird fucking freak doll or some weird like collector's shit, and you could send them whatever you want, but if somebody's willing to spend like the 50 grand on it or the 100 grand on it for this piece of shit, maybe that is what that front is. Maybe it's a way to just embezzle money and populate it through. Like you're doing a drug deal, and you're just funneling the money through Wayfair and saying you're getting it that way. So it's hard to really say, but certainly ties into this because it ties into the Pizzagate thing. It ties into a lot of stuff. It's very odd, and like you said with the name shit, that's fucking weird,
dude.
That's really weird.
I remember hearing about it and then doing it myself, going on to Wayfair and searching for these absurdly priced items that all tend to have female names, and you were like, "Holy fuck, man!" Like this makes no sense.
I've done it myself as well. Yeah, it was very.
It wasn't
another
logical.
website you could do it on too. No logic to it. I don't know what's on there. If I was a millionaire, maybe I would just spend the money just to see what would happen. For better or for worse,
I'm not shopping at Wayfair.
Busted by the cops.
Wayfair.
Yeah, right. That's true. All right, so I want to pull up another one. That's going to be like a very weird clip, but it ties into what we were just looking at with Chrissy Teigen, who's openly championing to eat human beings. This is Megan Fox, Hollywood hottie Megan Fox. And she admits to drinking blood during rituals. Let's hear what Megan Fox wants to say. And we're going to bring up this guy right here.
She used to be so
Okay, we
hot.
got
She
a
turned
little
into
video
such a
here.
fucking weirdo.
Just a few drops.
Oh.
Just a few drops. But yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only. It is used for a reason, and it is controlled where it's like, let's shed a few drops of blood. I need to drink it. He's much more haphazard and hectic and chaotic, where he's willing to just like cut his chest open with broken glass and be like, take my soul. Let me bleed on you. It doesn't not happen, let me tell you. Maybe not exactly like that, but a version of that has happened many times. Just a few drops.
How do you feel about that?
Now, to be clear, I know that she's talking about experiences with her. I don't know if they're engaged, married, whatever it is.
Significant other,
But her
yeah.
and Machine Gun Kelly, who I think is a fucking tool. That's who she's talking about. She's not openly admitting that I'm drinking the blood of children or people that we've captured and kept in the basement. It's still weird as fucking shit, though. And
Not in that
goddamn,
clip, she's not.
You used to be so goddamn hot, and you turned into a fucking weirdo.
So not in that clip, she's not, but there are other clips of her out there on the internet that talks about her going. There's some like one woman that's in Hollywood. And I can't find her name. I always stumble across it, and then I never think to really grab it. But effectively, she hosts these like ritualistic parties that simulate like human sacrifice meals. And Megan Fox talks a lot about how she does these like simulations of drinking blood as like this like spiritual journey that she goes on.
Yeah.
At some point, the line has to be drawn. You know, you're not doing all of these rituals. Like, I'm certainly not doing that. I don't even know that I'd want to do that. It's weird as shit. But you're doing it so frequently that like you and your Hollywood buddies are all talking about it. At some point, when does like the simulation stop and the actual process of going through that begin? Very strange. So Hollywood, right? Hollywood's crazy. Hollywood's nutty. Why aren't more people speaking out? And, you know, we got a little bit of that on the Justin Bieber Lonely song before. People speaking out and trying to say stuff. For the most part, it tends to be when people speak out, they die. There's a lot of speculation that Michael Jackson was actually speaking out and got silenced quite a bit. More recently, though, somebody that doesn't give a shit too much is Roseanne Barr. Have you seen this one yet?
I haven't seen that yet, but before you play it, I did want to say that I heard and I saw a video of Coolio, you know, Coolio the rapper, who died recently.
One of my favorites. Been spending most of my life living in the gangster's band. Yeah.
right before he died, he was apparently speaking out too.
Really?
And then died, yeah.
That's interesting. So, correlation. What is it? Correlation is not causation? Causation? Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Nevertheless, Tucker Carlson interviews Roseanne, and we're going to bring up what she has to say here because we're on Hollywood Rituals, baby. Now, Liz Crokin, who's actually sharing this particular video, has been speaking out on this for a long time. She claims that a lot of people, such as Britney Spears, were part of this stuff. They're part of this like Hollywood mix, which makes a lot of sense given her craziness. I'm going to play through most of this Roseanne piece because I think the clip is really, really, really important. I'm going to try to zoom in as much as possible here, too.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not just the dogs and the cats, not just the pets.
It's not just the dogs and the cats. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood. They do, Tucker. Stop staring at me like that.
You're freaking me out, man. Because you spent your life in the entertainment business, so I think you have some authority on this.
So many kids that I was in mental institutions with over the years, they are all from those cults. And they've covered it all up. They covered it all up. And, you know, I just pray to God. I'm just going to pray to God that he opens everybody's eyes in this country. By the time we go in to vote for Trump, that he will open up everybody's eyes and they will stop pretending to be asleep. You know,
I'm going to stop it there because we got the gist of what we wanted to cover there. What's your reaction to that?
Fucked up shit. No, I think Tucker said it right. She has spent essentially all of her life in Hollywood. She would know. I know a lot of people are going to laugh it off as it's crazy Roseanne, and Roseanne has had some issues in the past for sure. She was hit by a car when she was a young woman. She suffered some brain injuries. Still went on to have a very successful career. She's a genius comedian, very funny. But people are.
How do you know all this stuff about Roseanne?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how I know that. But people are going to unfortunately likely look past it and say it's just Roseanne being Roseanne, which is
there
sad.
Comes a point. It is sad. There comes a point where if this is now our buddy Tim Chismar from the Talk is Jericho podcast, who's effectively a no-name comedian, trying to make his way out there. Got it. Dismiss him. He's a lunatic.
Sure.
If this is the girl Allie, who's literally a nobody, like a complete nobody that made these accusations on the internet, whatever. You're probably crazy. You're just trying to get your 15 seconds of fame. It is what it is. And there are countless other stories, a lot of these bodyguards and stuff. But I mean, this is a mega star, Roseanne. She's been relevant for not a year, not 5, not 10, but like 40 years. Like she had her own television. She had multiple of her own television shows named
the show is
after
her fucking name.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like this is not just some random Hollywood person. That's what I mean. Like it was 2 different Roseanne shows. She had talk shows. Like this is not just some random Hollywood person. And I struggle to wrap my head around the fact that now she's crazy. She wasn't crazy when she's making all these people money for 5 decades.
Exactly.
Now she's crazy though. Now, just because now. Maybe she's exaggerating a little bit. But again, where does the exaggeration line cross? Where to exaggerate something, there has to be something in existence. Something has to be there. Where is that coming from? What is that? And so
you know what it adds up to? It's the same thing that we've talked about a lot. It's the same thing as the people that claim to see an FBO, Jesus Christ.
UFO.
A UFO. Yeah. I'm thinking of FBI.
Or the FBI. Same thing. They could be stalking you.
That see UFOs or see ghosts or see Bigfoot, right? Or whatever it might be. There are so many of them that at some point you've got to look at them and say, not all of these people are out of their fucking minds. Statistically, they're not all crazy. Someone, even if it's one person, even if it's one of them, they're telling the truth. And that's got to be taken seriously. And until the point in time where we could figure out who is and who isn't, we've got to look at it as something's going on.
Yep. And there's statistics that lean into that. Going back to the child thing, we had The Sound of Freedom that came out, which was quite literally about child trafficking. And I mean, that movie was shut down everywhere. They wouldn't let it play in major theaters because they were saying it was propaganda. Well, if it is fake, then who cares? But if it is real, why is everyone getting all up in arms about it? I mean, it was a very compelling story. Was it the best movie I ever saw? No, but it's a very powerful message. 8 million children go missing every single year. 8 million children are missing. They're not dead. They're missing. People don't know where they are. They disappeared. Of that, 365,000 in the U.S. alone. A year!
Yeah.
That's 1,000
That's
kids
just absolutely fucking insane.
Every single day are gone, disappeared. Again, they're not dead. They are missing. They're probably dead. Where are they going? And, they talk about, we've discussed this at length with some of the old United States programs where people would go into mental institutions and they would get tested on. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that like these homes for troubled youth and stuff, kids go missing from there all the time. Again, insane asylums, they were a thing for a little bit. You've got all these migrants that are coming over. What do you think's happening to them all? They're not just all ending up in a gutter somewhere. They're not just all thriving somewhere. Those could be another avenue. Something is happening, and something's happening somewhere. They say that they, as in conspiracy theorists, we're realists, not theorists, say that a lot of the times they like to tell you what they're doing. What?
I said pattern recognitionist.
Yeah, pattern recognitionist. I like that. That'll be our new tagline. They say that that the elites love to tell you what they're doing, and we've seen evidence of that throughout history, where they sort of tease it, right? Like you kind of lead it on, you leave the breadcrumbs. You see that with serial killers all the time. They're neurotic.
Yeah.
They tell you what they're doing. They want the fame. They love the power. And again, it becomes back to the game that other guy Tim was talking about. It comes back to the old short story that you've probably read back in high school that they made tons of movies and spin-offs of, The Most Dangerous Game, when they're going to hunt people. The reason they go through these problems, which, by the way, I heard happens in Oklahoma. A previous guest of ours, Todd.
Sure. I would have said Arkansas.
Todd Feehan. Yeah, probably Arkansas just as well. Equally boondocking.
Those fucking tumbleweeds.
We love you in Arkansas in the mountains of such. But there's like, it's if you talk to the locals in some of these areas, they will tell you stories of people openly being abducted, or they know that they're housing things and things are happening and they're hunting these people as sport.
Yeah.
Is it crazy? Is it bamboozly? Yes, of abso-freaking-lutely. But is it the craziest thing you've ever heard? No. So
yeah,
they tell you, right? And I keep coming back to that. I recently saw a film, and this is a major spoiler alert for anybody out there. I saw a film called Blink Twice with Channing Tatum, brand new horror-ish film. I couldn't help but think about what's happening between Epstein Island and Puff Daddy right now. Premise of the film is this. Channing Tatum is this rich, super rich tech billionaire who's at some social event, right? Him and his buddies, all his other rich tech friends, they're out there, they're mingling, doing their thing. End up meeting a couple girls, having a couple drinks, blah, blah, blah. The event's going to wrap up. Like, all right, we got to get out of here. We're going to go to my private island and party for the week. Talks to the girls. Hey, you want to come? Well, they're super rich. It's like if you merge like Elon Musk with like Tom Cruise, kind of like, or honestly just Channing Tatum. If you made Channing Tatum as rich as like Elon Musk, good looking dude, right? Honestly, it could just be Channing Tatum. I'm sure he's got plenty of money.
Yeah.
So they take these girls all back to this private island, and they're basically partying. And they party, do their thing, high sexual tensions, a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking weed, a lot of drugs going on. Girls go to bed. Next day, they really don't remember anything, but they party again. In any case, there's seeds planted throughout that something is wrong, something feels off. There's just like aura of weirdness. Again, this island's secluded. It's a nice big mansion. It's got very old decor. First thing I think of when I see that mansion is, wow, the decor looks a lot like Epstein Island's decor. Okay, just dismissive. That kind of architecture is probably popular, especially given the time period that a lot of these places are built. Maybe where they're built is what it is. People like to kind of change their tastes when they go to these places, be really upscale, a lot of marble. As it comes on, again, this is the big spoiler alert here, you find out that these girls are forgetting what's happening the night before. And, of course, because it's a film, they start to remember bits and pieces of it. And it turns out that if they remember too much, they get killed. But effectively what's happening is all these rich billionaires, they're bringing in their friends, and they're having their way with these girls. And it turns out one of them is a guy there, and I think they're having their way with him, too. It's not as clear, but he doesn't remember anything. So it seems to be that, like, maybe he was drugged, too. And every night they're basically raping them, or they're chasing them, and they're beating them, or they're attacking them. And then they kind of fix them up, put them back in a gown, throw them back in bed. The next day they don't remember anything. It seems so hyper relevant because it was like this boys club and this fun game that they're coming in there and they're doing this crazy shit. And you can see like some of the people are a little edgy that come in there because they don't really, they've done it a couple times, but they're a little nervous about the whole situation. And, I couldn't help but think of those two things. Then they get to the hook of the story. Again, major spoiler alert if you guys plan on watching the movie. Great movie to watch regardless. The way they're forgetting is because they're mixing some sort of a drug in with the perfume. So when the girls are wearing the perfume, it's just basically absorbing into their skin, or maybe they're breathing it in the first smell, and they're digesting it, and effectively overnight, it's just washing their memory away, and they're forgetting. So they're waking up the next day. They're not forgetting who they are, but they're forgetting a lot of things about them. And the one girl even forgot, like our close friend, she couldn't remember she was there. She swore she was. None of the girls ever remember her, the other ones that are there, except her lighter's still there. And then it starts to like click in, and it builds.
So
into
they're being like
story.
roofied with some kind of perfume, essentially.
And so that's exactly what I thought. Like, could this happen in real life? It's the first thing I ask every time I watch horror movies. That's what, to me, makes a really good scary movie versus not. Or thriller, same thing. Can it happen? Well, spray that makes you forget? No. Oh, wait. Roofies exist. You drink something that's roofied, you forget everything. It's like a black on. It's not like you're dysfunctional that day. Sometimes you are if you're heavily sedated, but like you can get roofied, have a night, and then completely erase it from your mind.
And not only that, roofie is just a term, right? Like roofie doesn't necessarily mean it's one specific chemical compound that everybody uses that's doing this certain thing. It's
generally
just a term.
roofalin, but
so
not
there are
always,
different chemical compounds out there. They're going to have different effects on you, but still enable the person who's giving you that drug to have the desired outcome.
Right. Why is this relevant? Well, outside of the parallels to Epstein Island and Puff Daddy being, rich and basically blackmailing people, they're also taking pictures of all these girls, by the way, every time. And so that was one of the giveaways. Is one of the maids that didn't really speak English kept calling this one girl, Red Rabbit or Red Rabbit. As it turns out, the last time she was on the island, because she's been there before, her fingernails were painted with red rabbits. And this one guy had like I don't know, a finger was cut off or something like that, and he was missing a finger. It's because she bit it off. She doesn't remember that, but he's got, so it's all ties in together that way. Again, sorry, major spoilers. So where does this all tie together? Usually the day of, the day before, the day after. I don't really remember the time frame, but that's when all the stuff comes out about Diddy's baby oil discoveries. And, it's hard to reconcile why somebody would have that much baby oil, especially even if Costco did sell it. Why do you have that much? What do you need it for?
Yeah.
Well, they just told us. Because all these people that are going to these Diddy parties, nobody's speaking out, right? His close friends are going there all the time. It is what it is. There's plenty of people that have started to talk about stuff. There's other stories I started to see on the internet about people that said, like, Nikki Heaton, who's kind of an independent musician, kind of low. I've actually seen her maybe in a film or something. I knew her many years ago. She must have played around here somewhere. Because I used to follow her on Instagram. I know it for a fact. I remember the way she spelt her name was always weird. It was like Niykee or something like that. In any case, she's got a whole thing on here, and I could pull it up. It's probably not worth diving into it, but the story is
essentially
fairly
accusing
long.
Diddy of the same shit.
Accusing
that
being
everybody
at
else
one of
has.
these parties, right? And she doesn't name a lot of names at these, but she says that there's influential people there, and I have a drink, and they handed me a drink, and I'm just not in the mood to drink. I'm not a big drinker to begin with, and everyone's like staring me down to drink this drink. And so I put it to my mouth and I kind of pretend to drink it, and everyone's kind of like relaxed a little bit more. My assistant or manager, whoever's there with her, who didn't want to go to the party to begin with and is not a partier at all, has a drink, and then is all of a sudden crazy, like jumping on tables, getting rowdy, and like she ends up pulling her out of there. And she's like, she had to have been drugged. Like she's never been like this ever, and she had literally one drink, and she's not the type of person to do this. It's out of her character completely. She's adamantly against it. And so, that started to make me think, well, this baby oil, is it possible that they're mixing this with drugs? And that's what the baby oil is. They literally describe it exactly in Blink Twice. I mean, they're formulating in the back house. They have a little lab that they're mixing this perfume together. They're labeling it and they're giving it out, and they're spraying it, either inhaling it or absorbing it. Same thing can be done with the baby oil. I don't even think it has to be used as the baby oil. They could be spiking drinks with it, and they could have them in baby oil bottles. So you could say like, "Hey, yo, Tim, you came to the party. You're my boy. Here it is. Just drop this some of it and drink." And that's it. You're selling it off. You're giving it out to people, and it just looks like baby oil. Or maybe it's hand and they're rubbing them down. Maybe you slip it under their nose and they inhale it the right way. I don't know. But when you think about like chloroform, what criminals used to use to knock people out, when you think about all the different roofie things, there's so many drugs out there that can put people unconscious. And then if your goal
ether
here,
is the same way.
Ether, not the ether, the free energy ether.
Right.
Yeah, different podcast. But there's
Not the
so many
Nas
of these
song.
drugs that exist. Not the what?
I said not the Nas song when he destroyed Jay-Z.
Oh, I don't know.
But in any event,
I'm not part of those rap battles.
Anyway,
but you've got all these like tie-ins. You've got all these drugs out there that can make people forget. What's to say that they aren't mixing it there? I've watched countless documentaries how they're making all of our major drugs in a fucking shithole in the middle of South America, in literally a tar pit. They're making like heroin and cocaine and shit. Now you're telling me that a multi-billionaire platinum streaming artist like can't do this in a lab in his compound, his massive compound in his house?
They've
This
got
can't be
more
happening?
money more money than you or I or most people listening to this could ever fucking dream of. Do you know that Diddy started a record label when he was 24 fucking years old? This guy has had so much money for decades. He could essentially do whatever he wants on God Green's earth.
It's
Now I
it's
thought
hard.
the whole because you and I had talked about the whole baby oil thing for a couple of weeks now, right? And I my first kind of pushback on that was like, but hey, if I'm using baby oil for sexual purposes, for what you would think that they intended to use it for, well, obviously I'm going to get that on myself as well, right? And so, well, that's counterproductive. I'm just going to end up drugging myself, and then you know, it's not going to work. But to your point, if it's not actually baby oil at all, and I know we're going out on a limb here and we're speculating. Of course, we do a lot of speculating here, right? We have no problem saying that, hey, we're just speculating. But if it's not baby oil at all, and it actually is some kind of drug, some kind of roofie, well, that makes that makes a lot of fucking sense.
What else would you have that much baby oil for? Because it's like it's
Well,
it's
think
not
about
like.
this. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's not like it's like KY. It's not like it's really lube. Not like lubing up with it necessarily, right? Like I was lube up baby oil.
So I was just gonna say that to you, right? So we're roughly the same age. We're very close in age, right? We've both partaken in sexual encounters, not with each other. I've never used fucking baby oil, nor would I feel the need to use baby oil. Maybe I'm missing out on something.
I don't know a single like use that I would get baby oil for. Like the only thing I could ever
no
think of is
fucking
like
idea.
if you were giving a girl a massage, like maybe use a little baby oil.
I guess I don't know, but baby, I don't know. I wouldn't even think to use baby oil.
Just like loosen it up a little bit, like make it really like a scented oil or something like that. Like that's the only possible use case I could think of. And like you're talking about a drop, maybe two, because if you do any more than that, it's just a fucking disgusting mess. Like
it's a disaster.
You're not doing like a KY like pool or something. You're not diving in baby oil, burn the shit out of your eyes. Like I can't. Bodybuilders maybe because they're rubbing it on their bellies and shit to look good. Pro wrestlers because they're going out there to make their physique look good.
Sure,
but not at a party. It doesn't add up on the party, and that's
it is weird.
And it's 1,000 bottles, right? Like it doesn't make sense. Like if you need that much of it, why aren't you getting a vat of it? Well, you got bottles. You got bottles for a reason. So I don't know, man. You're right with the absorption of the skin. There could be a tolerance thing. It could just be the application of it. It could just be something else entirely different. Maybe you mix it with the oil. Maybe it's just that initial contact in your skin and it wears off. Like you rub lotion on your hands. If you shake my hand, I don't get the lotion on my hands. It's on your hands. It's already absorbed into your skin. So I think there's a lot of different possibilities with that.
Maybe they gave it to whoever they wanted to rape essentially and say, hey, you put this on.
That's possible too. That's very possible too.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dive into this one because it's another longish video, but just to kind of tie it all together, Angelina Jolie is another one where she's talked a lot about participating in a lot of these initiation rituals, both on like private camera and publicly as well, where she's gone these blood drinking rituals. So there's so many angles that have tied into this. And then you look at things like, I mean, Tom Cruise ironically used to speak out a lot of this stuff, which is weird to me. Because I would say you look at like Scientology, you look at all these cults that have been formulated, and they're all built around these crazier cults too, are built around a lot of the same morals, if you want. I guess that's really a bad word to use because they're not morals, but like the FLDS and stuff, like they're breeding up kids and they're taking advantage of these young kids, and they're killing or extraditing anybody that doesn't do it. Not ritually, but it's always got a religious component to it in these groups. You've got 50 Cent, who's shit over Diddy for a long time and has come at him and has suggested things are going on. You've got a lot of other hip hop artists that have said, like, oh, I've never partied there. I would never party there. And you've got people that have been there quite a bit. I'm not going to say that every person that's taken a picture with the guy is guilty. Certainly not. I'm not saying every person that's been at a party is guilty. I don't think this happens at your normal party. I think it happens after hours and some of the more exclusive ones. But
I think it's like the after party type stuff. Yeah.
When it comes down to it, man, and you see the way these guys get away with everything, and you see the Epstein situation, you see the Harvey Weinstein situation, it really starts to make you wonder, maybe these people are telling the truth, to your point before.
Yep.
I don't know, man. It's something.
Not everyone's nuts. Not everyone is nuts.
Do you think that Diddy makes it to trial?
Well, if it is as bad as we say it is, or they say it is, and depending upon who's above Diddy in all of this, if there is somebody above Diddy in all of this,
There's got to be. There's got to be somebody above him. He's feeding the videos. You're not keeping blackmail for no reason. They're going to somebody or something.
Yeah.
So you think, no, he's not making it.
If that's the case, I think he's going to be Epstein real quick. But at the same point in time, but here's the thing. So the only argument to my own argument is that if you think back to Epstein, okay, who the fuck was Epstein, right? He was known amongst his friends. He was known amongst very rich and powerful people. But he wasn't a celebrity. I didn't know who the fuck Epstein was before all of that shit happened. He was just, to me, it sounds like some lawyer. You know what I mean? Oh, Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? Everybody knows who Puff Daddy is. He's been a music icon for decades now. It's going to be a little harder to off him. So I do have a little bit of hope, and we were kind of talking about this, and I kind of felt like maybe I was a little disinterested in the subject because if you look at Epstein, what happened with that? Absolutely nothing, and it's irritating. And I kind of got a little bit like, fucking, again, nothing's going to come of this. Maybe because they can't off him because he's such a public figure, maybe some of the shit does drop. Maybe the names do come out. Maybe the details do come out, and something actually happens and justice is served. Who knows?
I think the ball drops if you can get somebody to come out and admit something happened to them from him. The problem, I suspect, is that, like, if you look at like a Bieber, for example, and maybe he's a bad example, but my guess is that when you usher these people in, no pun intended, because he's part of the entire group here too, but when you usher them into this group and you take advantage of them, what happens traditionally, if somebody's abused all their life, they end up becoming an abuser, right? Like, that's how it goes.
Right.
So if you're sexually abusing these people to a point, it becomes a fraternity, right? There's a movie called Get 'Em to the Greek, starring
Russell
Jonah
Brand.
Hill and Russell Brand. And Russell Brand plays the same character he played in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Ironically, Jonah Hill was also in that film, and he plays two completely different characters, which absolutely drove me completely crazy because it's not like he even changed his look up. It drove me nuts.
It's like the same fucking universe. You're in the same universe.
Exact
dude.
same universe.
You got to be the same guy.
Actor. Right. You could have just made it the same kid, and like, he's like now got a job and he's trying to redeem himself, and the story would have still worked. In any case, there's a scene in it. The whole point of the show is that he's working for Puff Daddy, and he's going to get Russell Brand, who is playing a character named Aldous Snow, who's like a crazy rock star, and he's going to bring him back so he can play some event. But there are P Diddy parties going on in there, and they're crazy parties going on. Obviously not to the same extent, but there is a scene where Aldous wants, or Russell Brand's character's name Aldous wants Jonah Hill's character to shove something up his ass, and he calls Diddy, and Diddy's like, "Oh, you got to do it. So you're going to have the power once you do that. Nobody's ever going to look at you the same, blah, blah, blah." And watching that again in retrospect, because I've been watching the clip again, it stumbled up because the movie came to my mind. And then, of course, the clip comes up because, your social media feeds can read your mind now. And I watched the clip again, and I couldn't help but think, if you assault somebody and you take advantage and you put blackmail on them, well, they got two choices. They can go against you and get the blackmail released, ruin them, blah, blah, blah. Or they can kind of buy in. And maybe you become boys. Maybe they become close to you, and they know that, all right, well, if I'm close to me, they're not going to do it. Maybe they start doing it themselves. And so I think that is the one thing that's going to prevent the ball from dropping, is that if you have somebody in there, they have to be a big celebrity. Can't be the no names, right? Has to be like a Bieber. And if they come in there and they say something, you just got to make sure that they didn't do it themselves. And if they did, they're going to get outed too. And that's the problem. And maybe that's the risk you take to clear your conscience before you go see the big man upstairs or downstairs, wherever you're going, depending on how bad you did. But if you don't get somebody big like that, I think he gets silenced somehow. I don't know how it is. And I think you'll get like maybe a half dozen like mid-tier jabronis, like some like shitty rapper that like didn't hit it big, or some like C-list actor that's on like a reality show somewhere, like he participated in like the 12th season of Survivor, and like a fucking a bootleg reality star. Like you might get a couple
but then
of those
that's the
guys.
problem. No one's going to take it serious.
Well, that's the problem, and that's what I hope doesn't happen. But I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting one to find out, and it's going to be a weird world if the ball does drop, because the ripple effect is going to be real, and I don't think it has to drop all at once. I think just if a shred of that drops, it now unlocks every one of these conspiracy theories about eating people, about capturing people, about like infiltrating these like, you know, these children rescues to just combat the trafficking aspects of it. You look at Bohemian Grove, which we briefly touched upon before, with these rituals. These are happening. They're not hypothetical. They're happening. And there are celebrities that are going to, powerful people that are going to these things. You know, you're unlocking the door to all these things, and you're confirming now to some degree that it's all true. And that is probably scarier than knowing all of the facts.
You know what's a really interesting thought, and I know we're wrapping this, but I just want to put this out here. No pun intended with the rap thing. It's long been said that who really runs Hollywood and the music industry? 3-letter government agencies, right? So if this shit is really going down, and if those agencies really do run that city, they run that town, you think they don't already know about it?
Yep.
So where does it actually lead to at the end of the day? And that is also another fear of mine, that none of this comes out because it's all going to them anyway. So if the same person that would prosecute you already knows about it, well, nothing's going to come of it. Who knows? We'll find out. Or we won't.
Oh, we probably won't.
Or we won't.
I'll leave you with one more, because you just kind of stirred me on that one. If they already know about it, why is P Diddy taking the fall now?
I don't know. What did he do? Who did he disobey? Who did he piss off?
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thought.
It's weird, man.
Or do they just not have any use for him anymore? Exactly. Yeah, it's weird. It's just a bunch of different rabbit holes, dude.
Yep.
It's a bunch of different rabbit holes.
This is where this stuff
Hopefully
gets
we
fun.
find out where this one goes.
We would love to hear what each of you think. Keep it clean so we don't get banned. We've been shadow banned in a couple episodes so far. Hopefully this is not one of them. We are on YouTube. If you're watching us here, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and share this with a friend. It helps us out a lot. The follows help. That subscription helps probably more than you even imagine. It takes 20 seconds. If you're on Spotify, clicking that follow button on there is also really helpful. Leave a comment on there. They've got a really cool comment section. We will respond. We respond to everybody that we see that comes up there. Facebook, Instagram, you know where to find us. All the social media links are down below. Share this with people you know. And if you have any other topic ideas or you want to chime in, by all means, please do. Until next time, everybody, keep your baby arm's length. My goodness gracious. So long, everybody.